Yo, what is going on, guys? We are back today for another video, and we're going to be counting down the top 10 best champions in a specific class. However, before we get into that list, I just need to talk about a couple of disclaimers. And that's basically, when it comes to my tier list, that is not just my opinion. That is my channel, my community's tier list. And I use all your guys' thoughts and opinions, plus my own, to go ahead and make that. These types of videos, this is just completely my opinion on top 10 best champs. And my opinion is going to be different than everyone else's. It's going to be different than yours. And your opinion should also be different than everyone else's, because our opinions are based on our own personal experience playing this game. I've been playing this game for almost like 7 years, and no one is going to have the same exact game experience as me throughout all those 7 years. We all pulled different champions. We've all put in time into different champions. We're all in different communities and see different things. So like, there's no way we should all have the exact same opinions, and that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. So if you disagree with this, that's fine. That's normal, to be expected. Let's just keep things nice and civil in the comments. And yeah, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Alright guys, so in today's video, we're going to be getting into the top 10 best cosmic champions in mcoc, in my opinion. So, before we get into the actual top 10 list, I have 2 honorable mentions for you all. And the first honorable mention is a big tree that can regen a lot, and that's King Groot. I personally am not the biggest fan of King Groot. Never used him before he was buffed. Never used him after he was buffed. Probably never will use him. So, for me, I can't really put him top 10 when I never and will never use him. However, I do admit that regen is nuts. So that's why he gets an honorable mention. So that's King Groot. And then we have the other honorable mention is available as a 7-star, and that is Gorr. So, Gorr is pretty great. He was pretty subpar when he was first released, but he did get tuned up via the rebalance program, and he is a lot better now and available as a 7-star. So yeah, Gorr's stock went up quite a bit. He's a great champ. Could have even maybe put him higher, but I don't know. There's some other champs that I really just can't not list. So he gets an honorable mention as well. That's Gorr, the God Butcher. And I really think, Gorr, if there starts to be more champions that have, the Elder tag or the God tag, if we get like a lot more of those types of champions and they're relevant in the meta, then, Gorr's stock is only going to shoot up. But God and Elder tag champions are quite rare. So it's not the best thing to really be countering. So those are our 2 honorable mentions, King Groot and Gorr. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the top 10 list. So coming in at the number 10 spot, we have a cosmic champion that changed the game, quite literally. That is Corvus Glaive. So Corvus Glaive, man, he's basically the old Hercules. That's the best way to look at Corvus Glaive, is he was the original Hercules. Hercules is just the new and improved Corvus of today. But back in my day, actually it wasn't even technically my day, because when Corvus came out, I actually wasn't even playing the game. I had actually stepped away from the game. At the time, I thought it was a permanent retirement or just like quitting the game. And I stopped playing for months. And so that's when Corvus came out, and apparently, like I said, I wasn't playing at the time, but his scores, his arena scores, went so low because everyone thought Corvus was garbage, because all they did was they took him against Realm of Legends and Winter Soldier, and they're like, what the F? This sucks. He's not good. And that was it. Case closed. Like, the entire community slept on Corvus Glaive when he came out. The arena scores were record low because people thought he sucked. But that's the thing about Corvus. He's not going to do anything against Realm of Legends and Winter Soldier. But if you take him to the right matchups and, hunt the charges that you need, 1 to 2 charged Corvus one charge Corvus is worlds apart from a no charge Corvus. Just that one charge makes so much of a difference. And if you can get that one charge, that cruelty buff, it's very potent. Let's see what it is on a rank 3 6-star. Critical damage rating by 3,225. That is a massive, massive increase to the critical damage rating. So just one of those makes all the difference in the world. And but you know, that's not what makes Corvus Corvus. It's the Glaive of Immortality, the way to cheese fights. And the most common thing, and why I said Corvus quite literally changed the game, because he did, was timeouts. Timing out became... The game became plagued with timeouts. Because with Corvus, you just get down to 1% health. When you're about to die, you just pause, you time out, you're still at 1% health, you do it again. And that's pretty much all people did for AQ back when AQ was a lot more relevant for like literally years. Just Corvus was on every single person's AQ team, and he could basically just do everything. And if you had time, you could do it for free. Just time out, like fight the mini boss, take off 20%, you're about to die, pause, go back in, take off another 20%, pause, and you just keep doing that infinitely, as long as you have the time. And that, I did that as well in incursions, or I think back in the day it was dungeons. So yeah, Corvus quite literally changed the game, the way we look at the game, the way Kabam looks at the game, and yeah, Corvus will always be a legend. But these days, he's just so outclassed by so many champions, and just the real biggest downside, negative to Corvus, is what we talked about already, that he needs that one charge, and it's not always an easy thing to do. And in Battlegrounds, unless they evade or auto block, which you need to trigger and then punish, you're not going to get the charge. Most of the charges are gained from defeating a type of champion, either Avenger, Mutant, or Tech champ. So Corvus, the stock is not very high these days, but he is a legend, have to acknowledge him. So that's number 10. Now number 9, we have Captain Marvel movie. So Captain Marvel movie is an incredible cosmic champion, and she is forgotten about, man. It's honestly kind of sad. She's just slept on, forgotten about. But at the same time, it makes sense, because there's just so many crazy, powerful cosmic champions these days that, you know, the old ones, you just kind of forget about them. But Captain Marvel, man, I'll never forget about her, because she was my very first ever rank 3 champion. Now, when I say that and you're watching this, you're like, so? A rank 3, like, whatever. I have 20 rank 3s. Like, why does that matter? And it doesn't. Not anymore, at least. But back in the day, man, a rank 2 6-star was equivalent to a rank 5 5-star, all maxed out. And then we got rank 3s. So rank 3s was like that new power level. You know, like imagine like a 7-star rank 3. You know, that's what this Captain Marvel was to me years ago at that point in time. That's the equivalent. She was my very first ever rank 3. Gave her a 6-star generic awakening gem, which again, I tell you that now, you're like, so? 6-star generic awakening gems, we get 2 a month from the side quest. It's like, yeah. But back in the day, that was like the rarest resource in the entire game. And I gave one to her, because she's that good. She is that good. Her signature ability is crazy. It's crazy. That indestructible buff that she gains. Indestructible is like the most powerful possible ability in the game. To just be indestructible, you're literally indestructible. You're invincible. You take no damage, nothing. Like nothing can do anything to you. Nothing can touch you when you're indestructible. It's the most powerful ability in the game. And Captain Marvel here at Max Sig can get a 12-second indestructible buff. And you can just start fights with that. So again, like back in the day when, you know, legend runs were a thing, and, you know, cross fights, carrying over combos and stuff was a lot more important. This was so powerful. But, you know, these days with the big shift to more so Battlegrounds type of content, it's not nearly as powerful, because you need to fully build to 25 charges or above 20 to activate this indestructible, which in an average Battlegrounds match, that's going to take you a very long time. But when this ability can be used to its full potential, it is ridiculously powerful. And just give you some examples, like back in the day, you know, Captain Marvel used to use her for all kinds of stuff, like fighting Korg. You know, with Korg, back then, Korg was a lot bigger of an issue than he is today, and you could just be indestructible, then you wouldn't take the Thorns damage. So like today, this would be a lot more useful against like a Tuma. Have that indestructible active, and then kill him in your window, that 12-second window. Boom, you don't have to take any Thorns damage. So Captain Marvel will always have a special place in my heart, and I really do still highly rate the champion. If there's anywhere that there's going to be like a cold snap debuff or a shock debuff or an incinerate debuff or something like that, or even passive should work too, then Captain Marvel is going to be pretty good there, and because it's going to ramp her quickly. If she's taking energy damage, she gains charges at a much faster rate instead of just having to parry to get them. But yeah, that's Captain Marvel landing at the number 9 spot. Definitely one of my favorite Cosmic Champions, and just kind of always have a special place in my heart as my, you know, very first ever rank 3 6-star. Alright, let's go ahead and move on now to the number 8 spot, and we have another female, and that is Sersi. So the reason why Sersi is above Captain Marvel is because Sersi's a lot more well-rounded, I would say, mainly in the fact that she is a powerful defender. Very powerful defender. And Sersi also has, you know, some interesting type of utility where she doesn't have indestructible, but she has glancing, which in its own right is extremely powerful as well. So Sersi can be a very annoying defender with her glancing, really prolong fights. Her specials aren't the easiest to dex either. She can go unblockable and catch you with them. But the great thing about Sersi is she's also good on attack. She can stack up a ton of Furies and hit very hard, and I believe she can also refresh them. So Sersi is a really, really great Cosmic Champion. I'd say she's heavily underrated, but at the same time, I'm okay with that because I don't like fighting Sersi. I find her to be quite annoying, so I don't see her too often, which is a good thing for me. But I do think she is pretty heavily underrated, so that's why she's landing at the number 8 spot in arguably the best class in the game. So that's pretty high praise. Alright, let's go ahead and move on now to number 7. The number 7 spot, a fan favorite by the community, and that is Hyperion. So man, let me tell you a little story about Hyperion. So back in my heyday, we're talking 2016, when I started playing the game. It was October. I believe it was October 15th. And so when you start a new account, you're in what's called the beginner's bracket for Arena for the first 30 days. Then for 30 to 60 days, you're in the intermediate bracket. And then after those first 2 months, you're in just the whale bracket with every other player in the game. And so I took advantage of that as much as possible, and I would grind out for new champions. Again, we're talking, this is 2016, so there was no 6 stars, there was no 7 stars, and there were 5 stars, but there was like a very limited pool, and the 5 stars back then were like even rarer than 7 stars are right now. So like 4 stars were the hot commodity at the time. And so I grinded for like Ghost Rider, I grinded for OG Doctor Strange as a 4-star. I think I actually placed number 1 in that arena, in that intermediate bracket, and it was great. But my time in that intermediate bracket was coming to an end. I was reaching my 60 days. But luckily for me, I believe on like day 59, the Hyperion arena started. So in like the middle of that arena, too much time had passed, and I should have been put in the next bracket. But since I made it just in time, you know, before I was put into the next bracket, I was able to grind out 4-star Hyperion. And that was a big pickup back then. That was a big pickup. And ever since 2016, Hyperion has not changed, I don't think, really at all. The game has changed a lot since then, but him and the way he functions, his abilities, it's all pretty much the exact same. And yet, he's still ranking so highly on a list like this. Which is pretty crazy. That's impressive for a champion to age that well. And I'd say, if anything, Hyperion has only gotten better with time. I'd say when he first came out, he's actually way more underrated. But, you know, the thing about Hyperion that makes him so unique and so powerful is quite literally the power that he gains. Just the passive power gain from the power gain buff is nuts. You can basically just special intercept. You don't even have to use basic combos. If you just play slow and steady, you can just spam special ones, get the laser beams going, and stack up the incinerates, and you're off to the races. So the only thing that I don't like about Hyperion, and I think what really holds him back as a character, and why I can't just put him any higher on this list, is because he is subject to RNG. Heavily subjected to RNG. You know, you could do 2 fights with Hyperion, the exact same fight, exact same team, exact same mastery, exact same boosts, do the exact same fight, exact same person, do that fight like a minute apart, back to back. There's no way the stats are going to be the same. I mean, you could say that with just about any champion, but not any champion, but it's going to be vastly different, because with Hyperion, you know, you could get incredible RNG. And, you know, let's say a fight's on average a minute long. If you get incredible RNG with Hyperion, you can end that fight in less than 30 seconds. But by the same token, if you get really bad RNG, that fight could go for a minute 30 seconds. So that's just my biggest and basically only gripe with Hyperion, and it always will be, is that I hate the RNG. I hate the RNG that he's so subjected to it. On his heavy attacks, you know, sometimes you get 0 Furies, sometimes you get 4. And it's just, he needs more guaranteed stuff in his kit. You know, if like his heavy attack said guarantees at least 1 Fury, and then with, you know, a chance for extra on each hit, I would like that so much more. And a lot of champions these days are designed more so by like that. But again, Hyperion came out 2016. The champion design processes have changed a lot since then. They're talking like 7 years ago. So, but again, that's just kind of a testament to how well Hyperion has aged in the contest. And he's going to be a 7-star, and I think 7-star Hyperion is going to be incredible. I think that's actually going to be one of the best 7-stars in the game. I think that actually is going to be the best 7-star Cosmic, aside from Knull. But then again, no, he'd probably be better than Knull, because Knull is going to need high sig. So yeah, man, 7-star Hyperion. If you guys get a 7-star Hyperion, man, you just won the game. Like that's going to be such a big pull, because, you know, Hyperion, he really doesn't need to be awakened. But if you somehow do manage to get him awakened, Sig 20 is more than sufficient. Way more than sufficient. You can see here at Sig 20, we're at like 70% increased to our buff duration. At Sig 200, it's like 75% or something. Something silly. Let me double check on Aunt May here, so I can give you the exact number. I don't want to lie to you. But it's something really, really silly like that. So let's see here. Hyperion. Yeah. Okay, I was slightly off. At max sig, it's 75.03%. Sorry, I missed that 0.3%. But yeah. So that's the great thing about Hyperion. You know, he's gonna be such an incredible 7-star. Honestly, he like I said, Hyperion has aged well. I think he's going to continue to age well. I think he's going to age even better. Like, the fact that he's coming out as a 7-star, I think that's just going to make the Hyperion stock go even higher. And like, when I make this video again a year from now, in 2024, I feel like Hyperion might even crack the top 5. We'll see. I'm interested to come back to this topic. We'll see. But Hyperion landing in that number 7 spot for now. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the number 6 spot. And that is a newer champion in Adam Warlock. So Adam Warlock, man, he's an interesting one. When I very first saw the gameplay for him, I was flabbergasted. Like, I was so caught off guard. I'm like, Kabam is seriously releasing an OP Cosmic Champ, like, just right out the gate? And, like, they know he's pretty broken looking. Like, what? But they did. And so after seeing that initial gameplay and then testing Adam, my mind definitely changed a bit. Because when I first saw the gameplay, I was like, this is incredible. This looks too powerful. Like, he's going to get toned down. He's going to get rebalanced. It's too much. But then I actually played it. And that definitely changed my opinion, because you need to play so uberly aggressive. Like, it's actually kind of nerve-wracking. Like, it's kind of stressful how aggressive you actually need to play with him. But I think that's a really good thing, because that really helps to balance him out. If there was no stress factor in playing him, then he would just be too powerful. But because there is, that balances him out a bit more, in my opinion. But that's not even like the best part about Adam, again, in my opinion. Well, I would say the best aspect of Adam Warlock is definitely his pod, which was a brand new mechanic introduced into the game, and it's very powerful. The stasis pod. So you can enter this manually anytime in a fight, and on defense, it's going to trigger at 25% when he gets pushed to 25%. Now, it doesn't sound like much, you know. It's like one trigger per fight on offense of your choice, and one trigger on defense when they get pushed low enough. Like, that doesn't sound like that good. And I can try to tell you, like, oh yeah, but the pod can reduce all incoming damage by 75%, instantly regenerate a bunch of the damage, lower ability accuracy of damaging debuffs, gain immunity to cold snap, incinerate, shock, frostbite. You know, that's all pretty nice. When you emerge from the pod, you gain an invulnerability frame. And then also with the signature ability, it also gives more regeneration just when entering the pod. And when the opponent strike the pod, they can get stunned. So once I tell you all that, it's like, okay, well, the pod's sounding pretty good. But again, one trigger manually on attack and just one trigger on defense. Why is it so good? The reason why it's so good is because you can trigger this pod 1,000,000 times in a fight. You just have to throw 1,000,000 special twos. And that's the real kicker. You can just keep throwing special twos. There is no limit on the pod with your special two. After the special two, it triggers every single time. And this is so powerful on both offense and defense. So let's break it down why it's so powerful on offense. So, well, like we already said, the pod sounds pretty good. You know, you reduce basically 75% of damage, heal back 74% of it, and then you know, plus the recovery mastery, you heal more, and then awakened, you get regen as well. So you're healing net positive from the pod. But the best part about the pod on attack, in my opinion, once again, is when you right after you use your special two. Typically, your opponent gets their back against the wall, and then you're right in their face, and you enter the pod. So boom, you're in the pod, and you're right in their face. So what do every single time? If they have a bar of power, they throw it. Every single time. Every single time I've played Adam, without fail, from my own personal experience, I throw my special two. If they have a bar of power or higher, every single time they throw it. So the way I look at that is basically the ultimate taunt. It's the ultimate taunt. That if they throw the special every single time, it's like 100% guaranteed taunt. Which is pretty darn good. It's pretty darn good. Speaking of taunts, I'm pretty sure Adam also just has taunt built into his kit. He also applies a infuriate to make them more passive. So they turtle up so you can hit into their block and get your counter going. So, yeah, like Adam not only has this incredible taunts from the special 2 with the pod activation, he also has mechanics built into his kit to help control the AI even further, to play into him even more, and just make his rotation easier, which is really great because, like I said, it can be stressful. So that's why I think the pod is Adam's most redeeming quality, especially on offense. It's very powerful. What about on defense? Well, it's the same. I can't speak. What pairs so well with that pod on defense is right here, top of this text. It's a power meter. So Adam his combat power is reduced by a quarter, 25%. However, Adam passively gains 2.5% of a bar of power each second. Guys, that is such an absurdly powerful ability. That's basically like Hyperion without the buffs. Just passively and always. And there's nothing you can do about it. Unless you have some kind of power lock. Which if you do hit Adam with, I think if you power drain him or power burn him, he actually gains energize. So he's just going to get that power back. Which I really do like offensively. But yeah, defensively, that passive power gain is very annoying. Because what'll happen is, you don't want Adam to be throwing special 2s. Because if he throws a special 2, he's going to trigger the pod. You're going to have to wait that out. It's just going to kill time, especially in Battlegrounds where time is important. And if you accidentally hit into him or something and he's awakened, you're going to get stunned, and then he might just combo you. So when I fight Adam, I like to just bait a special 1 because there's no pod activation or anything, keeps power control. But what happens quite frequently, the AI just does not want to throw their special. And so what does Adam do? Well, he just keeps passively gaining that power, gets to his special 2, and then boom, you gotta deal with the pod. And the pod just wastes so much time. And so if there's also like any additional power gain, any power gain nodes, it's gonna make Adam way worse because more power, more specials, more pods, more time wasted. So I really think Adam is an even more powerful defender than he is attacker. But I'd say it is pretty even. I'd say slight edge, though, in the defensive category, just mainly because of the stress factor playing him offensively. But all around, I think Adam is a really well-built champion. I don't think he's that overpowered one way or the other. I could see him maybe being tuned down a bit, but I don't think it's that needed. I think champions like Hulkling could use a tune down on defense way more than Adam. But I digress. That is Adam coming in at the number 6 spot. All right, let's go ahead now and move on. Top 5. So, the 5th best Cosmic Champ in the game, in my opinion, it has to be Cosmic Ghost Rider. So, Cosmic Ghost Rider, like, if there was an award for the most badass looking champion in the game, and an award for the coolest fight screen intro into the game, like when you start a fight and the champion comes in, normally they just walk in, but there's a few champs that come in a little bit differently. So if there was a vote for those 2 categories, Cosmic Ghost Rider would be top 3 in both of them, guaranteed. I think Spot would also be top 3 in both those votes as well. But yeah, Cosmic Ghost Rider, he just looks so freaking incredible, man. Like, I could stare at this dude all day. So cool. I love the colors. Love the way the helmet and the flames are just like rotating. Like, he just looks so perfect design-wise. And yeah, his fight intro, he's just riding the motorcycle. It's incredible. It's a really great fight intro that he has. But as far as his actual abilities go, he's one of the hardest hitting champs in the game, and it's just so bursty. You can get that damage going so quickly. It's ridiculous. It's actually so ridiculous. Ghost Rider was a big help in actually achieving my Mythic title. For that Mythic run, Cosmic Ghost Rider put in so much work. So much work, dude. Especially because I was able to utilize this synergy here with Ghost Rider. 50% plus duration for your first judgment. Just use that with the power gain. You get so much power right off the start. You're close to special 2. It's just nuts. And then Cosmic Ghost Rider got even better recently with the introduction of relics, because this Thor relic is actually such a game changer for Cosmic Ghost Rider, because what it does is when you use it, it applies a aptitude buff. Now, I really love this on Galan because, more buffs, more harvest. But on Cosmic Ghost Rider, it's even better because this aptitude can count towards Cosmic Ghost Rider's natural rotation. So, you do your standard normal rotation first, especially like in Battlegrounds. And in Battlegrounds, there tends to be a Dauntless node, which basically gives more fills more power in the striker at the start of a fight, usually 50%. So, you do your first rotation with Cosmic Ghost Rider, standard, get that damnation up, and then by the time you're teeing up the second rotation, you can use the relic, the striker here, activate the aptitude, and then you can just completely skip over having to use the heavy attack. So it's game changing for Cosmic Ghost Rider's rotation. Very, very useful. Highly recommend throwing on a Thor relic onto Cosmic Ghost Rider. Yeah, just so good. That's Cosmic Ghost Rider. He is slightly lacking. No, I'd say majorly lacking on the defensive side of things. Cosmic Ghost Rider is not a good defender. But he's just so good on attack that he gets his number 5 spot. And because if I didn't put him here, Slayer might hunt me down. So there's Cosmic Ghost Rider at that number 5 spot. Alright, let's go ahead and move on now to number 4. It's getting juicy. So in that number 4 spot, we have my buddy Zarafa's favorite champ in the whole game, and that's Knull. So Knull is pretty incredible, and he is going to be coming as a 7-star. Like I said, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. I do think 7-star Hyperion will be slightly better than a 7-star Knull. However, I do rate Knull more above Hyperion overall, just because with Knull, there is 0 RNG. There's 0 RNG when you're playing him, which is fantastic. And Knull is kind of weird for a Cosmic Champ. He has some unique stuff. Really, really like it about him. I'd say my favorite thing about Knull is his medium attacks. So, let's see, where is that listed? Here we go. So, symbiote attacks, which are his mediums, his heavies, and his special attack 1s. Kind of like Omega Red, like specialized hits. And so what Knull can do on these specialized hits is they gain a passive true accuracy. Passive true accuracy is so powerful because, you don't need a buff, you don't need a passive, you don't need to do anything to obtain it. You just have it built in to your combos. So true accuracy, you can strike into opponents that would evade. They're not going to evade. You can strike into opponents that are going to auto block. They're not going to auto block. Pretty sure that works for auto block as well. So just, and you can just use your mediums and your heavies, and that's fine with Knull's loot because your mediums and your heavies is the way that you build your debuffs. What are those debuffs called? The Living Abyss debuffs. Yeah. So it flows really well with the way you want to play Knull anyway. So it allows him to take some very interesting matchups. Now, the other great thing about Knull is he's also incredible on the defensive side of things. If he gets off that special attack 1, he's going to apply an encroaching, timer. And if that timer expires, then you're going to have inverted controls. Inverted controls against Knull can be very scary, and I've seen it go wrong very quickly. Very quickly. I'd say the biggest downside to Knull, though, is definitely his signature ability. And just the fact that you kind of need to heavily invest into it, if you're going to be wanting to run Knull all the time, and especially in, more so shorter to medium fights, which in the current state of MCOC, that's everything. No one gives a crap about long fights or long form content because every type of content that we have like that is completely irrelevant in the game reward wise. It's Kabam's fault for the economy the way it is, but and it makes me mad because long form content is my favorite outside of Battlegrounds. So kind of sucks for me, but yeah, and so with Knull, if you're gonna be doing long form fights, the sig doesn't really matter because you can just build your debuffs. But in short to medium term fights, the signature ability is everything because it significantly cuts your amp. For every 13 signature levels, you get +1 Living Abyss debuff just starting on the opponent, and at max sig 15. So 15 debuffs to start with. Now, versus Unduped, where to get 15 of those debuffs, you would need to do, at bare minimum, 15 hits. And each hit would need to be a heavy or a medium. And even still, if you did that, those hits are not guaranteed to apply said debuff. So it would be even more than 15 hits. So the signature ability can just, basically saves you 4 combos that you don't have to worry about. Massive, massive signature ability. So that, I think that is going to be holding the 7-star Knull back slightly. Maybe more than slightly. However, I think Knull is such a powerful champion that by the same token, it doesn't matter. Because all that means is fights are going to take a little bit longer to get those combos off, to get the debuffs that you would have had from the SIG. Not the end of the world. It's worth it on a much bigger Knull as a 7-star, much bigger health pool, challenger rating, 7-star Knull on defense. Oh, if he throws that special one and you don't have Absorbing Man, good luck. Good luck. So, yeah, I think Knull is also going to age and scale pretty well as a 7-star. Definitely he's going to scale a lot better, as time goes on and we're able to get, 7-star resources to eventually 6 champs up. But that's Knull. Love the guy. And he is coming in at the number 4 spot. Alright, let's go ahead and move on now to the number 3 spot. The 3rd best Cosmic Champ in the game. And this one is a personal favorite of mine. And that is Galan. So, Galan, such a big fan of Galan. He was my very first ever 6-star rank 5 maxed out champion. We did the Eternity of Pain acceptance 100% with Karina's challenges included, and that gave us a random 4 to 5 6-star gem crystal, and we got Cosmic out of there. And I didn't even have to think about it. I did not even have to consider, I just instantly knew. The second I pulled out, oh my god. The stars are aligned for me. Rank 5 Galan, it's meant to be. And I did it, and I have absolutely zero regrets. I think Galan is honestly a little bit underrated these days. I really do. I really do. People sleeping on Galan. People say, Hulkling's so much better than Galan. It's nah. They're so close. They're so stupidly close in goodness. They're basically almost equal. However, I do have Galan listed here first. Because, and the reason for that is, I don't know. I'm willing to admit I do think Hulkling is slightly better than Galan. Ever so slightly, by the smallest, thinnest margin. Absolute smallest margin possible. By dropped it. By, the tip of this pin. That small of a difference. That's how tiny of a difference we're talking about here. They're basically dead equals. But if I gotta make the list, I gotta pick an order. I'll put Galan in 3rd. Because I think the stats would overall reflect that. If we looked at the stats of Battlegrounds, like win rate with Galan versus Hulkling on offense, I think Hulkling would have a higher win rate. However, that's the thing though. Hulkling's definitely easier to use, whereas Galan is a little bit more complex in the way you can play him. But if you can play him properly, he can just do incredible things. And I've done incredible things with Galan, like fight Korg, just rinse Korgs. Galan has nothing to counter Korg, but in the right hands, I've rinsed Korgs and won matches against some of the best players in the world, just rinsing it with Galan. And that's what Galan's capable of. I'm just such a big fan of Galan. I love the way his damage works. It's just guaranteed damage. You build it up, you know how much health your opponent has, you know what you need to build to, and then you can just end the fight. And it's incredible. And the unstoppable and regen buffs that Galan gains from entering the harvest, I didn't quite realize this at first. Well, I didn't know that when you're unstoppable and your opponent hits your block, if you immediately counter, that actually counts as an intercept. So that is actually that was a huge thing that I learned using Galan. And so, for example, Galan's not going to be the greatest for crit me with your best shot, but just hypothetically speaking, let's say I was using Galan in that meta, enter the harvest, I'm unstoppable. It'd be so easy to intercept, just let them touch my block and immediately counter, boom, that's an intercept. Now I have the crit passive. Now I have guaranteed crits. Or if there's ever a foresight meta where when you intercept you gain a fury passive, same idea there with Galan, he'd be really good for it. or just anywhere where you need to intercept. And that regen as well. You're unstoppable and you're regenning. Two very nice buffs to have, and they coincide with each other very, very nice. So yeah, Galan just always have a special place in my heart as my first ever maxed out 6-star. I don't buy into the whole Hulkling's way better than Galan. I think they are neck and neck. And I think Galan has one of the coolest looking weapons in the entire game. Buddy literally has a staff with planets on it. A planet and... is that a sun on the back? A planet and a star on a staff. Like, how Giga Chad can you get? So that's Galan coming in at that number 3 spot. Alright, coming at the number 2 spot, you all know who it is. We've already said his name a bunch. And that is Hulkling. Now again, just ever so slightly, right, Hulkling a little bit above Galan. And, you know, the whole thing of how I said Hulkling is easier to play than Galan, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And it definitely, you know, gives him some more brownie points because it's nice that it's simple. His loop, his rotation, you know, just hitting a block, watch your hits, time the unblockable with the special 2, get 2 Furies, and you just hit like an absolute freight train. I feel like when Hulkling was designed, you know, it was the hit into their block thing. That was more of a... They haven't really done a whole bunch of that, you know, where you need to hit into the block as a part of the champion's rotation. So I feel like when it was introduced with Hulkling, it was more of a skill check. But it's not much of a skill check because it's so easy to do. And it's honestly too easy. It's too rewarding for Hulkling. Like, he already hit so hard. To be able to pass the skill check and then get the double Furies and just massive damage so easily, it's just bonkers. It's off the charts. Like, Hulkling should probably be the best Cosmic Champ in the game, but there's another champ that's just even more broken, which we all know who that is, which we'll talk about soon. But yeah, I absolutely love Hulkling. I do. Offensively, I love playing Hulkling. I love using him. Like I said, that rotation is so easy. It's seamless. It feels really good. And you can also utilize it a little bit differently. You know, if you can just focus on breaking champions' blocks, just get openings. And use that unblockable buff that way. You don't necessarily have to always use it just for your special 2. You can use it in other ways, which I really do like. And I definitely utilize with Hulkling. I like that you can play him a little bit differently. What I really don't like about Hulkling, I'd say 2 things. 2 things. First thing, when playing him, he can go to special 3 sometimes. And so if he had some way to kind of prevent that or to hinder that a little bit, I would really appreciate that. Same with Juggernaut. Oh, if they just had a way to throw the bar of power below it, like Future Ant-Man does, oh, it'd be insane for Hulkling and Jugs. So that's a little annoying about Hulkling offensively. Not too bad, though, and it doesn't come up in most fights. Just in some fights it can happen, and it can certainly be annoying. But the worst, absolute worst part about Hulkling, but also kind of the best, is he is just one of the most ridiculous champs in the game on defense. Like, if you don't have a counter for Hulkling, you're not going to have a good time. It is just horrible. He regens so much of the damage that you deal to him. So much regen. And he just periodically goes indestructible throughout the fight. Just wasting so much time and mitigating so much of the damage that you can even deal to him. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Hulkling's probably the champ I hate to fight the most in the entire game without a counter. Like, any champ in the game is easy to fight if you bring in the hard counter, you know? Like, it's like, I hate when people say that, like, oh, that champion is not hard to fight, just bring in Longshot and Hulkling's cake. It's like, yeah, sure. You can apply that same logic to any champion. Bring in their hardest counter, it's going to be cake. But we're talking about when you don't have the most optimal counter or a suboptimal counter. And even with suboptimal counters, it can still be rough. Like, for example, Dr. Doom. Dr. Doom usually shreds all the Cosmic Champs, but Hulkling, it's a lot trickier. You need to line things up. You really need to line up your Incinerates with the indestructible to try to actually get the damage, so it's not just wasted. So yeah, Hulkling, man, personal, just biggest hater to fight him. Oh, it's horrible. Just despise it, detest it. I really think Hulkling should have been toned down in the rebalance program defensively. I firmly believe that. Honestly, just surprised he wasn't. But that's Hulkling for you. Second best Cosmic Champ in the entire game. And the only champion that can be called better in the Cosmic class is Hercules. But of course, we all know it's going to be Hercules. Hercules, you know, Corvus Glaive 2.0, the new and improved version. That's what he is. That's honestly what Hercules is. And it's nuts. Like, I'd say there's really two defining qualities when it comes to Hercules, and that just make him the best Cosmic Champ in the game. The first one is the most obvious, and the one that we all think about, and that is, of course, his signature ability, Son of Zeus, which grants Hercules immortality, that you can not only pause when you're attacking normally, but on special attacks, it's just paused. And it's just the best and most broken mechanic, signature ability, any ability in the entire game. Like, if there has to pick one best one, it's that. And I'd say, like, number 2 probably would be Kitty's Awaken ability, which lets her take 0 damage while phasing. But that's a topic for a different video. But yeah, we all know Hercules' immortality, and that's definitely what makes him the most broken champ in the game. But there is definitely a second defining quality about Hercules that makes him ridiculous, and that is just his double damage sources. You know, Hercules, he has his regular damage source that every champion in the game does, you know, just their basic numbers, their basic combos. And, you know, Hercules' stats are great, so everything's good. He's got a big health pool, he hits hard. The crit rate is low, but, you know, with the special one, you can heavily increase it, so it's not a big deal. But the real kicker is his second damage source, which you do need to build up. So again, it is a bit of a skill check via intercepting or knocking the opponent down with heavy attacks while they're not under the effects of stun. So I really do like that, especially the intercepting. Hercules does have a way to kind of, you know, to infuriate, to manipulate the AI, which does make that a lot easier. But yeah, it's extremely worthwhile to do. Like, you know, when you see people use Hercules in Battlegrounds, typically the starting rotation is, you know, parry, medium, light, and then dash back light, 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 dash back light. And if you do that, you build like 6 or 7 feats of strength right off the start of the fight, and then that just juices your damage so much. Because each feat of strength, I think it grants 10% of the damage that you dealt, and these could stack all the way up to 12. So you're actually getting more than double your damage output once you get past 10. At 10, it's just doubled. Above 10, more than double the damage, which is bonkers. Like, that's actually insane, because like we already said, Hercules just with special 1 can heavily increase his crit rate, so has like a 90% crit rate. Then with the special 2 crit damage rate, then you're doubling all that damage. All those gold numbers is more than double in red on top of it. So you end up getting just a crazy damage dealing champion that can stay alive forever. And if you really want proof of this, you know, Seaton recently did a Labyrinth run with a 565 Aegon. And, you know, Aegon hits ridiculously hard. If he gets he gets some Furies, you know, he hits big damage. I was able to beat his time with Hercules. Hercules' damage is better than Aegon's in a long form type of content. Like, that's insane. That's like, I honestly didn't realize for a while just how crazy Hercules' damage output really is. But it is. It sure as heck is. And yeah, that's the best Cosmic Champion in the game. Herc, we all know that. You guys all know who the #1 spot was going to be. But yeah, guys, that's going to go ahead and do it for this top 10 list countdown video. Top 10 best Cosmic Champs in the game. Again, my opinion, but I'd say the #1 spot is not debatable at all. So yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. I hope you guys did enjoy. Drop a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.